Hey guys, tonight we're plunging into a world louder than your neighbour's midnight karaoke. The drug-fueled chaos of 1970s rock and roll. Not the chill, tie-dye, past the granola kind of rock, but the sleepless, sweat-soaked, wild-eyed decade where hotel rooms were demolished, guitars were set on fire, and noses were, let's say, very much in danger. We're talking about a time when some of the most legendary rock stars on earth decided that sleep was for mortals, vegetables were for rabbits, and mixing heroin with cocaine, yes, at the same time, was somehow a brilliant idea. This is the terrifying, neon-lit, jittery world of the heroin and cocaine speedball, the 1-2 punch that chewed up and spat out more icons than bad fashion choices and questionable moustaches combined. And since this is our brand new channel, before you settle in, maybe take a second to hit like and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what you find here. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I love seeing who's out there listening, especially at 2 a.m, when every classic rock playlist sounds better. Now dim those lights, put a fan on for that soft white noise, and make yourself comfortable. Maybe tuck your phone out of arm's reach, because tonight's story might just convince you to never ever accept anything from a man named Ziggy in a velvet suit. But let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what life was really like as a 1970s rock star? What did it feel like to walk into a hotel lobby already banned from 3 others? Did anyone ever actually sleep? How many guitars does it take to get evicted from an entire country? Did groupies really hide in laundry carts? And did anyone ever clean the band bus? What was breakfast like when you'd just done enough drugs to tranquilize a rhino? And would you survive a day surrounded by managers, hangers-on, and a small mountain of mysterious powders? And now, congratulations, you've just woken up in 1976. The radio is blasting, there's glitter in your hair, and you have no idea what city you're in. Good luck. You open your eyes to the sound of something buzzing. Might be the minibar fridge, might be your own head. The curtains are drawn, there's a shoe on the ceiling, and someone's written, "Keith was here" on your forearm in eyeliner. The only thing louder than your hangover is the realization that you have absolutely no memory of where you are, and even less of how you got here. For a moment, you wonder if this is a hostage situation, or just another Tuesday. The bed feels like it was assembled by a committee of angry raccoons. Half the sheets are missing, the pillow smells faintly of old pizza, and you're not entirely convinced you didn't just sleep in your own stage clothes. The air tastes like stale smoke and something suspiciously sweet, like a donut that's seen better centuries. Congratulations, you've survived another night of rock and roll. You try to piece together the crime scene. The coffee table is buried under a drift of empty cans, guitar picks, crumpled lyric sheets, and one of those tiny shampoo bottles from the hotel bathroom, now half full of something neon green. There's a room service tray in the corner, home to what might once have been an omelette, but is now more abstract art than breakfast. You wonder if you ordered it, or if it just wandered in by mistake like everyone else last night. Somewhere, muffled behind a closed door, you hear someone snoring like a malfunctioning lawnmower. It could be the drummer. It could be a fan. It could be an actual lawnmower for all you know. Your band does have a habit of collecting strays. On the desk, your phone is blinking a gentle, menacing red, flashing reminders of missed calls from your manager, your mother, and someone saved only as Tony Bass. You sit up, slowly, as if gravity has a personal grudge. The world tilts. The carpet feels both squishy and crunchy underfoot. Best not to think about why. You stumble toward the bathroom, guided by the faint glow of a nightlight and the lingering aroma of industrial-strength air freshener. Rockstar bathrooms are where dignity goes to die. Toothpaste is everywhere except on the toothbrush. There are towels on the floor forming their own small ecosystem, and the mirror is fogged over with mysterious handprints and what might be a phone number or a plea for help. You splash water on your face. The shock is immediate, like a personal attack from the hotel plumbing. You catch sight of yourself in the mirror, a Picasso painting of regret, glitter in your hair, mascara under your eyes, and a faint outline of someone else's lipstick on your cheek. Your skin has the colour and texture of leftover mashed potatoes. You look like you lost a wrestling match with a disco ball. Now comes the real challenge, remembering where you're supposed to be. There's a crumpled set list on the floor with Cleveland scribbled on it, but your wristband says Cincinnati and your wallet still has Canadian money in it. You realise the only thing keeping you on tour is blind luck and the iron will of your tour manager, who at this very moment is probably explaining to hotel security that, no, you don't know how the mattress ended up in the elevator. Eventually you get dressed, or at least you put on the least sticky clothes available. Every pocket contains a mystery, a lighter, a guitar pick, a crumpled receipt for 50 cheeseburgers, a single drumstick, and the remains of what might once have been a sandwich. You consider eating it, but decide life is already risky enough. Finally, you open the curtains. Blinding sunlight pours in, revealing a parking lot full of fans, a news van, and, just for good measure, an inflatable swan. You don't remember buying an inflatable swan, but you salute it anyway, a survivor recognizing another. You take a breath, steady yourself, and head for the door. Your head is pounding, your limbs are jelly, and your shoes still don't match, but somehow you're ready to do it all over again. Because in the world of 1970s rock, the real miracle isn't writing a hit song, it's surviving the morning after. Let's talk about the rock star's favourite cocktail. No, not a Manhattan, but the infamous speedball. Equal parts bad idea and worse decisions, this potent mix of heroin and cocaine promised both euphoria and disaster, all delivered via a hotel bathroom that hasn't seen a mop since Woodstock. The recipe is as simple as it is horrifying. Take 1 part heroin, the downer with the comforting warmth of a weighted blanket, if your blanket was soaked in bad intentions. Mix it with cocaine, the upper that turns your brain into a hummingbird on an espresso binge. Inject, inhale, or otherwise administer this combo in the least sanitary environment available. The result? Your body gets very confused, very fast. Your heart races, your mind spins, and your limbs float somewhere between "this is the best idea I've ever had" and "why are my shoes on the wrong feet?" Congratulations, you've just invented medical roulette and you're the only contestant. You, of course, don't think of it as dangerous. After all, it's 1976. Nobody has invented the phrase "just say no." Rock stars are pioneers, bravely venturing into new realms of consciousness and public health warnings. You've read about it in Rolling Stone, heard the rumours at after-parties, and now your drummer swears by it as the secret to his 5-hour drum solos. What could possibly go wrong? Let's set the scene. You're hunched over a bathroom sink which may or may not be attached to the wall. The counter is a minefield of pill bottles, take-out containers, and a toothbrush that's clearly given up on life. Someone's playing guitar in the bathtub, not plugged in thankfully. And the shower curtain is a Jackson Pollock tribute of mysterious stains. The mirror, if not cracked, is fogged with equal parts steam and self-doubt. This is your laboratory, your confessional, your rocket launch pad to another dimension. Mixing the speedball is a ritual. The heroin and cocaine are lined up in their respective corners, like two feuding boxers before the bell rings. Maybe you've convinced yourself that one will balance out the other, like eating a salad with your bacon cheeseburger, or ordering a Diet Coke with your triple-layer cake. The cocaine jolts you awake, firing every neuron at once. The heroin, on the other hand, flattens the chaos, softens the sharp edges, and makes the walls melt in a way that feels both alarming and oddly familiar. For a brief, glittering moment, everything feels perfect. The music in your head is symphonic, your worries dissolve, and the universe seems to have given you a backstage pass. And then, almost immediately, the cracks appear. Your hands shake, your vision blurs, and the room develops a gentle spinning motion. The person next to you might start reciting poetry, or maybe just stare at their own hands for 20 minutes. Time stretches out, or collapses entirely. Minutes become hours. Hours become the reason you can't remember if you played a show last night, or if you're just dreaming it all from the comfort of the world's least sanitary bathroom tile. On the outside, it's glamour. Magazine spreads, roaring crowds, backstage VIP passes. But behind closed doors, the speedball is writing its own story. Friends start looking tired. Bandmates disappear for days at a time. Paranoia creeps in like the world's least welcome opening act. Maybe you think you're invincible. Everybody does. Until the ambulance shows up. Maybe you swear you'll quit just as soon as the next tour ends. The problem is, there's always another tour. The real punchline: the speedball doesn't care if you're famous, talented, or just really good at hiding the empty bottles under the sink. It takes legends and leaves myths. The tabloids will call it tragic. The documentaries will call it the price of fame. And your mother will call and ask why you sound out of breath on a Tuesday morning. So next time you hear the word cocktail, maybe think of something safer, like a nice glass of water, or a warm cup of tea, or anything that doesn't require a spotter and a liability waiver. Because history shows us that the true art of the speedball isn't the high. It's surviving long enough to tell the story. Being in a rock band isn't just about playing music. It's about surviving the wild menagerie of personalities. From the paranoid drummer to the manager who looks like he hasn't slept since 1969, you're surrounded by a cast of characters who make Thanksgiving with your in-laws look tame. Let's meet the family. First, the lead singer. Every band has one, and yours believes they're both a misunderstood genius and, possibly, the reincarnation of a mythological creature, like a peacock crossed with a Greek god. Their luggage is 80% scarves. Their contract insists on a very specific brand of imported honey, and they haven't stopped talking about vibes since 1972. You watch them warm up in the green room, humming scales and gazing into the middle distance, as if expecting divine inspiration, or maybe just the pizza delivery guy. Next up is the guitarist, a mysterious figure who hasn't seen sunlight since the Nixon administration. He communicates only through cryptic riffs and one-word answers. Ask him a question, and you'll get a shrug or, if you're lucky, a brief monologue on vintage amplifiers or conspiracy theory about string gauges. His suitcase contains 3 t-shirts, a year's supply of guitar picks, and a collection of herbal teas labelled things like spiritual enlightenment and probably not FDA approved. Then there's the bassist. No one is quite sure where he came from or what he actually does all day. He appears suddenly like a well-meaning poltergeist and disappears just as fast. In band photos, he's always slightly blurry, like Bigfoot. If you ever need change for the vending machine, he's your man. If you need emotional support or relationship advice, he will listen intently and then quote a Buddhist proverb that doesn't quite fit the situation. Now, the drummer, the human metronome. Also the group's conspiracy theorist, self-appointed security chief, and collector of rare ailments. He sleeps with one eye open, convinced that rival bands are plotting to sabotage the snare drum. He checks every hotel window for snipers, refuses to eat anything green, and has 3 different prescriptions for anxiety, none of which he actually takes. If you need someone to keep a secret, tell the drummer. By morning everyone will know. Of course, it isn't just the band. The circus is much bigger. Your bodyguard is a mountain disguised as a human, fluent in 6 languages, but only uses one: grunt. His hobbies include arm wrestling roadies and standing between you and any fan brandishing a chicken, which happens more often than you'd expect. When not actively saving your life, he's found asleep in the bus aisle, snoring loud enough to rattle the windows. Hovering around is the manager, the only person whose job is harder than yours. This poor soul juggles contracts, appeases record execs, and negotiates with hotel staff about the flamingo in the fountain. He's powered entirely by espresso and existential dread, his hairline retreating with every missed flight. If he ever asks you for a minute to talk, run. It means something is on fire, someone is missing, or you're wanted in 3 states for something involving a goat. Don't forget the sound crew, an army of black t-shirts and clipboards who speak in a dialect made up entirely of tech jargon and sighs. They've heard every tantrum, fixed every broken cable, and have a 6th sense for when you're about to spill cola on the mixing desk. Their reward? A stale sandwich and front row seats to your existential crises. The tour bus itself is its own living organism, housing the hopeful, the hopeless, and the just trying to take a nap. Personal space is an abstract concept. If you want privacy, your best bet is hiding behind the bass drum or inside a road case labelled miscellaneous. You'll hear the life stories of crew members you've never seen and develop opinions about snack foods you never knew existed. And through it all, you keep playing, keep travelling, keep surviving. Because in this circus, everyone is both the star and the sideshow. You learn to love the chaos, or at least to tolerate it, because the alternative is going solo, and then you'd really have to talk to the audience. By sunrise, you realise the real miracle isn't just making music, it's keeping this wild band of misfits on the road, mostly, out of jail, and more or less in tune. Welcome to the family. Good luck getting out. Fame means never eating a meal alone, unless you count the groupies asleep in the hallway and the superfan currently hiding under the room service cart. Love is fleeting, relationships are complicated, and most of your fan mail arrives covered in glitter and mysterious stains. Let's start with the groupies. They're the unofficial road crew, the shadowy figures who somehow know which hotel you're in before you do. They travel in packs, move with the cunning of trained ninjas, and have mastered the art of appearing out of nowhere with a Sharpie and a hopeful grin. Every show, every after-party, every half-lit backstage corridor, they're there, waiting, autograph books in hand and stories ready for the telling. Some want a signature, some want a kiss, some just want to touch the hem of your questionable velvet jacket for luck, and some, you suspect, might be plotting to adopt your drummer. You don't dare fall asleep before checking the closets, under the beds, and especially inside any laundry carts wheeled past your door. One memorable morning, you discover a note tucked into your shoe. I love you more than free Wi-Fi. Call me. Signed only, Mystery Girl, Room 417. Another time, you find lipstick on your set list and realise you haven't actually used a pen in weeks. That's not ink, just a particularly committed fan with a talent for calligraphy and trespassing. Superfans are a species all their own. They know your birth date, your favourite cereal, and the name of your first guitar teacher. They'll recite every lyric, correcting you, sometimes, when you mess them up on stage. They turn up at every concert, every signing, every press event, sometimes dressed as you, sometimes dressed as well. Let's just call it abstract art. There's the woman with a tattoo of your face on her shin, backwards, but it's the thought that counts. There's the guy who hands you a carefully crafted scrapbook, complete with a lock of hair from your 1974 haircut, preserved in plastic like a relic. You're both flattered and a little concerned about his access to museum-grade preservation techniques. And then there's the fan mail. You imagine stacks of letters, sweet messages, the occasional knitted scarf. Reality. The envelopes are sticky, the handwriting is passionate, and most notes are delivered on whatever's handy. Napkins, coasters, an actual pizza box scrawled with, "Marry me," or at least send back the crust. You get Polaroids, pressed flowers, and a suspicious amount of glitter that ends up everywhere, including your sandwich and somehow your toothpaste. Occasionally you receive gifts. A hand-knit hat that's 2 sizes too small, a taxidermy squirrel with your band's name painted on it, a love poem written in alphabet soup. You're not sure whether to be touched or mildly alarmed. Relationships, meanwhile, are an Olympic sport in emotional gymnastics. Groupies come and go. Romantic entanglements with fellow musicians or fans burn bright, fizzle fast, and occasionally explode spectacularly in the press. You find yourself trying to explain to your mother, on a scratchy long-distance call, why there are 3 bouquets and a bag of candy hearts in your bathroom, and who, exactly, is Darla from Des Moines. Your manager just sighs and updates your emergency contact list again. All of this means privacy is extinct. The hotel lobby is a gauntlet. The elevator ride is a press conference. Even breakfast is a public event, where fans wave from the parking lot and the waitress asks if you're the one with the tattoos or the one with the hair. Sometimes you dream of solitude, just a single cup of coffee and silence. But even in your dreams, someone is asking for an autograph. But the truth is, you wouldn't trade it. There's a special magic in the adoration, the weirdness, the wild declarations, the fact that somewhere out there, a person is wearing your old sock as a badge of honor. Fame in the 1970s is a glittery, sleepless, slightly sticky adventure, and you're the main character, whether you're ready or not. So you gather up the pizza boxes, dust the glitter off your jacket, and prepare for another night. Because in this world, love is fleeting, but fan mail and glitter is forever. Welcome aboard the tour bus, a rolling ecosystem powered by diesel fumes, stale potato chips, and the combined body odour of 6 grown men who think laundry is a French word. Privacy doesn't exist. If you can find your own toothbrush, you're already winning. The tour bus is less a vehicle and more a travelling science experiment. Imagine a metal tube crammed with unwashed laundry, mismatched shoes, and that mysterious sticky spot near the back that no one claims responsibility for. Every square inch is spoken for. Guitars piled on bunks, stacks of crumpled magazines doubling as pillows, and at least one sock that's gained enough sentience to demand voting rights. You look for a seat, but every cushion is taken, either by a bandmate, a roadie, or an open bag of road mix that's mostly peanut dust and dreams. Let's talk about smells. Forget air fresheners, they gave up by day 3. The scent is equal parts feet, fries, and something you're pretty sure was alive last week. Some say the bus has its own weather system. Condensation forms on the windows, blending with fingerprints, band logos, and the occasional lipstick message, "Call me mystery boy." Open a window and the roar of the highway drowns out conversation. Close it and you're back to the aroma of eau de desperation. At night, the bus transforms into a dormitory for insomniacs. The bunks are stacked 3 high, with curtains that promise privacy, but mostly serve as sneeze guards. If you're lucky enough to snag a top bunk, congratulations. You get a front row seat to every pothole between Dallas and Detroit. The bottom bunk? That's where you go when you want to feel every soda can someone forgot to clear. And good luck if you're tall, your feet will dangle into the aisle, making them prime targets for anyone stumbling to the bathroom at 3 a.m. Speaking of bathrooms, the tour bus facilities are legendary in the worst way. The rules are simple. Don't ask about the blue liquid, and absolutely no number 2s while in motion. The bathroom is just big enough to regret every life decision that brought you here. The sink is always clogged, the mirror foggy with the memories of shaves gone wrong, and the tiny shelf above the toilet is home to a collection of expired deodorants and 3 razors with questionable origins. The kitchen, or what passes for one, is a narrow shelf stacked with instant noodles, half-eaten burritos, and a fridge whose main function is to create new and exciting forms of mold. The coffee machine is always broken. The microwave's sole job is to make your burrito both frozen and scalding at the same time. There's a communal bag of chips that's more air than snack, and a jar of peanut butter, so old it's probably technically a fossil. And then there's the social life. Privacy is extinct. Conversations are public property. Every argument, every laugh, every confession is heard by everyone, including the driver and at least 3 passing truckers. Need alone time. Your best bet is hiding behind an amp case and pretending to tune a guitar. Want to call home? You'll be competing with the drummer's nightly phone therapy and the bassist's attempts to win yet another radio contest. Still, there's a weird comfort to it all. The constant jostling, the midnight sing-alongs, the existential dread that comes from realising you're living in a rolling petri dish with people who think bathing is for after the tour. Somewhere between the empty chip bags, the hair clog in the sink and the bandmates snoring 2 feet from your face, you realise this is what makes a band a band. You're united not just by music, but by shared suffering and a deep, unspoken understanding that whatever happens on the bus stays on the bus or ends up as a story in the next interview. So you settle in, clutch your dubious toothbrush, and hope the next gas station has showers. Because in the 1970s, the tour never ends, and neither does the smell. It's 4 a.m, and inspiration hits, right as everyone else is snoring into their amp stacks. You stumble over sleeping bodies, empty bottles, and a suspiciously sticky floor to scrawl lyrics on the only clean surface left, the back of the drummer's head. There's something about the dead of night that calls to the inner songwriter. Maybe it's the hum of the bus engine, or the steady drip, drip, drip of condensation plopping onto your lyric notebook. Maybe it's the fact that for once nobody's talking, arguing about the set list, or playing Smoke on the Water for the 900th time on the out-of-tune acoustic guitar. It's just you, a chewed-up pencil, and the kind of raw, buzzing energy that can only come from 2 hours of sleep and 4 days of instant coffee. You kneel on the floor, shoving aside an empty pizza box and a roadie's left shoe, trying not to wake anyone. Every noise feels like a gunshot, the scratch of a pen, the crinkle of paper, the accidental kick of a beer can sending it rolling like a tin drum down the length of the bus. But creativity can't wait. The song in your head is a freight train. You're just barely holding on to the melody before it flies off the rails and disappears into the night forever. You are your options for paper. The official lyric notebook is missing, probably eaten by the bassist's emotional support iguana. There's a napkin, but it's already got someone's phone number and the beginnings of a philosophical debate about the meaning of groovy. A piece of the set list will have to do. Never mind that it's already been rewritten more times than your tax return. You end up using the drummer's head because, let's be honest, it's the flattest, most available surface. Plus, he'll never notice he's out cold, dreaming of conspiracy theories and Swiss Army knives. The words start to flow. It's poetry. It's nonsense. It's a little bit of both. You rhyme love with above, glove, and when desperation strikes, shove. You come up with a killer chorus, scribble it down, then forget it instantly, and have to reverse engineer your own handwriting by flashlight. The hook is catchy, but the bridge needs work. You hum it quietly, trying not to wake the guitarist, who once bit someone for interrupting his beauty sleep. The sound of your own voice is strangely inspiring, or maybe it's just the acoustics bouncing off a pile of laundry and a broken snare drum. Outside, the world is still. Neon lights from the last gas station flicker through the grimy window. Inside, it's a universe all your own. You can almost hear the finished track, the thump of the drums, assuming you ever let the drummer see these lyrics, the shimmer of the guitar, the bass line that will get replaced at the last minute because nobody remembered to wake the bassist up. For a few minutes, you're a genius. Every note is golden, every line worthy of a magazine cover. You taste immortality, or maybe that's just the cold pizza you found under the couch. Inevitably, though, the spell is broken. Someone snores, someone mumbles in their sleep about lost pics and overdue paychecks. The driver changes lanes, sending you and your creative genius sliding 3 feet to the left. You catch yourself, steady your pen, and finish the last verse. Something about love lost and found between rest stops in Omaha. It's heartfelt, it's real, it's mostly legible. You collapse, exhausted, proud, and covered in mystery glitter. By the time the sun rises, the others will have opinions, suggestions, and at least one joke about your handwriting. But none of that matters, because for a few quiet hours, you chased inspiration across a sticky floor and wrote something new, even if the chorus is permanently tattooed on your bandmate's scalp. And that, in the end, is the real magic of rock and roll. The studio is supposed to be sacred ground. In reality, it's where creativity collides with caffeine jitters, and the sound engineer is 3 hours into his existential crisis. Someone's playing scales on a grand piano, someone else is attempting to cook soup on a space heater. This is where the magic and the lawsuits happen. You arrive at noon, which is early in rockstar time, sunglasses glued to your face and hair that could be declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The building looks glamorous from the outside, plush carpet, gold records on the wall, a faint lingering scent of ambition and broken dreams. But step inside and the illusion unravels. The lobby is full of battered instrument cases, a vending machine stuck on potato chips, and a band that's been waiting 3 days for their drummer to sober up. You pass a man carrying 6 tambourines and a live iguana. No one bats an eye. The control room is the nerve centre, run by a sound engineer who's equal parts genius and wizard. He has more knobs at his disposal than a NASA launch pad and wears headphones at all times, possibly to block out both the music and the existential screaming in his head. He mumbles about bleed and phase inversion, words you nod along with while sneaking another handful of jelly beans from the communal bowl. His coffee mug says "World's okayest human," but inside it is pure espresso with a hint of despair. Tracking a song is an adventure in patience. The singer spends half an hour tuning the vibe, then another hour deciding between singing with shoes on or off. The guitarist won't play unless he's got his lucky pick, which everyone suspects is just a regular pick with a new story each week. The bassist says he's ready, then disappears for 45 minutes, returning with a sandwich and a poem about his spiritual journey. The drummer, meanwhile, has barricaded himself in the vocal booth, refusing to come out until someone brings him a very specific brand of orange soda that's only available in Belgium. Every studio has its ghosts. Some say you can hear the faint echo of the last band's failed harmony in the air vents. Others swear there's a mysterious thump in the walls, probably a snare drum that wandered off in 1973 and has been haunting the pipes ever since. There's always one chair that creaks louder than your conscience, and one lamp that flickers whenever you're about to nail the perfect take. The engineer mutters about the studio curse, but nobody listens. Everyone's too busy trying to find the restroom or figure out how to open the soundproof door from the inside. Between takes, chaos reigns. Somebody's dog is barking at the bassist's new shoes. Someone else is learning French from a language tape played at top volume. There are philosophical arguments about whether music should have structure, or just be a free-form meditation on the beauty of existence, usually led by the keyboard player who may or may not have slept this week. At some point, someone always microwaves soup, setting off a fire alarm and forcing the entire band out into the parking lot, where you spend 20 minutes writing a new bridge just to pass the time. And yet, somehow, through the noise and caffeine and faint smell of burnt popcorn, the magic happens. Someone hits a chord that tingles down your spine, the band locks into a groove, the lyrics finally fit the melody, and even the sound engineer sits up a little straighter. The chaos fades away, just for a moment, and the studio becomes what it's always promised to be. A temple where something extraordinary is born out of total nonsense. Then the door bursts open, the manager shouts about budget overruns, and the guitarist starts an argument about whether the cowbell should be louder. The magic is gone, but the tape is rolling, the song is alive, and you realise that genius and madness are really just roommates fighting over the last clean mug. You pack up, step into the night, and wonder if you'll ever remember what you did in there. The studio lights flicker behind you, probably haunted, definitely home. You've made it big. Congratulations. Your mail now includes everything from hand-knit sweaters to voodoo dolls. Every letter is a gamble. It might be a marriage proposal, a declaration of undying love, or a strongly worded request that you never return to Nebraska. The sheer variety of mail is staggering. Some mornings, you receive a box overflowing with crocheted scarves in colours you've never seen outside a migraine. Other days, it's a lumpy envelope rattling ominously, addressed in glitter pen with 17 exclamation marks and the phrase "for my angel" or else. You get letters written in every imaginable style. Delicate cursive on scented stationery, marker scribbles on napkins, and the inevitable ransom note collage made from magazine cutouts that makes your manager double-check the locks on your hotel room. Some fans pour their souls into poetry, haunting odes about your eyes, your lyrics, or that time you dropped your tambourine in Toledo. One particularly ambitious admirer writes a 40-page novella starring you as a detective, a vampire, and inexplicably a pastry chef. You skim the plot while drinking your third coffee, and wonder if you should hire this person as your official biographer or your official restraining order consultant. Then there are the gifts. You've received enough knitted hats to open a small, poorly curated haberdashery. There's a painting of your face on a velvet canvas, a sculpture made entirely of chewing gum, impressively detailed if unsettling, and a heart-shaped pillow that plays a recording of someone whispering your name on a loop. The record for strangest fan gift is a tie between the taxidermy possum in a tiny leather jacket and the jar labelled Stardust from my backyard. You consider calling NASA, but instead you just display it next to the possum and hope for the best. It isn't all flowers and love notes. For every declaration of eternal devotion, there's a letter informing you that you've ruined rock music forever, a postcard from someone who has seen you in their dreams and it's not going well, or the infamous 5-page complaint about the tragic overuse of cowbell. Occasionally you get the kind of letter that makes your bodyguard raise an eyebrow and start memorising escape routes. The death threats are usually creative, written in red ink, accompanied by cryptic doodles of guitars exploding or skulls with 70s haircuts. Your manager assures you it's just passionate fans with questionable impulse control. You sleep a little lighter, just in case. Of course, there are the marriage proposals. Some are straightforward. Will you marry me? I make excellent lasagna. While others are epic sagas involving joint horoscopes, predictions of your future together, and annotated diagrams of what your children might look like. One woman proposes on the back of a paper plate, including a coupon for free dry cleaning and a phone number. Another time, a fan delivers a velvet box with what appears to be a homemade wedding ring and a note that simply reads, "Name the date." You start to wonder if you should consult your lawyer, your therapist, or both. And every so often there's a letter that stops you in your tracks. Maybe it's from a teenager who says your music helped them through the worst year of their life, or a parent who played your record for their newborn in the hospital. Those are the ones you save in a special box, the ones that remind you why you ever picked up a guitar in the first place. The world may be full of oddballs and threats and midnight serenades from Nebraska, but it's also full of people who listen, who care, and who see something in you worth loving, or at least obsessing over. So you keep opening the mail, never knowing if you're about to get a marriage proposal, a voodoo doll, or just a folded up note that says thanks. Because in the circus of rock and roll, the fan mail is a show all its own, and you wouldn't miss it for the world. Nutrition on the road is a choose-your-own-adventure with only bad endings. Breakfast is usually cold pizza, lunch is a cigarette, and dinner is whatever's still edible after 3 days in the green room. Somehow, you're both malnourished and over-caffeinated at all times. You wake up starving, your stomach protesting like a disrespected roadie, but the only options in sight are a slice of something that once resembled pepperoni and a bottle of soda that's mostly melted ice and backwash. The hotel's continental breakfast closed an hour ago, but that's just as well, since your last encounter with a lobby waffle left you contemplating the meaning of rubber as a food group, so you poke the pizza. If it bends, it's edible. If it snaps, congratulations, you've invented breakfast jerky. Coffee is your lifeblood, not the good kind, nothing poured by a barista with a foam heart. This is the coffee that comes from a battered machine in the green room, half grounds, half existential dread. It's served in a styrofoam cup, tastes faintly of cleaning chemicals, and comes with a side of anxiety. You drink it anyway, convinced it'll compensate for the fact that you haven't seen a vegetable since the Nixon administration. It doesn't. You're jittery, sleep-deprived, and somehow still yawning. If you're lucky, someone will produce a bag of chips or a questionable sandwich from a plastic container that's seen more hotel fridges than your toothbrush. The sandwich is a gamble, a culinary Russian roulette of soggy lettuce, mysterious meat, and a slice of cheese that looks suspiciously like it started a new life as a science experiment. You sniff it, weigh your options, and take a bite anyway. Hunger is stronger than fear. Sometimes. Lunch on the road is a cigarette. Not that you really think it's a meal, but it fills the void and matches the look. You stand outside the venue, shivering in a thin jacket, chain smoking with the rest of the band, all of you pretending it's the 1930s and you're existential poets. Someone tries to eat a granola bar, but halfway through realises it's mostly pocket lint and optimism. You all shrug and keep talking about which gas station has the best hot dogs, a conversation more academic than actionable. Dinner is the green room buffet, a graveyard of finger sandwiches, wilted celery sticks, and a suspicious dip that's probably older than your fan base in Idaho. There's always a fruit tray, but half the grapes are missing and the pineapple tastes like plastic wrap. Someone from the crew insists you need your vitamins, so you pop a handful of gummy bears and call it even. If the show goes well, you celebrate with takeout, lukewarm Chinese food, greasy burgers, or, if you're really living, the mysterious special from the diner across the street, a dish that tastes like regret and déjà vu. And let's not forget snacks. You keep emergency reserves in your bag, stale crackers, a handful of peanuts, and that ancient energy bar you found in the bottom of your guitar case. It survived 3 tours and the nuclear apocalypse, so you nibble it cautiously, hoping for the best. Sometimes a fan gifts you homemade cookies. You thank them, smile, and pass them to the drummer, who has the stomach of a goat and the taste buds of a brick. Somehow, you're both starving and wired. Your inside's a swirling storm of caffeine, nicotine, sugar, and regret. You dream of salads. You fantasize about smoothies. The one time someone mentions quinoa, the roadies call an exorcist. Yet you survive. You play your heart out night after night, fueled by coffee, adrenaline, and whatever you manage to scavenge before soundcheck. You're living proof that the human body is an instrument of resilience and questionable dietary choices. Because in the end, the real miracle isn't the music. It's that you haven't been felled by a sandwich older than disco. And as long as there's coffee and hope, you'll make it to the next city. Just don't ask what's for breakfast. You didn't choose the fashion chose you. Spandex pants tighter than a drumhead, glitter in places glitter should never go, and enough scarves to strangle a disco ball. The only rule, if it looks absurd, you're probably wearing it right. The day starts with a question, whispered into the void. Can I get away with sequined boots before noon? In the 1970s, the answer is always yes, especially if your bandmate is currently ironing rhinestones onto his jumpsuit in the bathroom. You stare into the wardrobe, a riot of colour and texture. There's leopard print vests, paisley shirts, crushed velvet jackets, and at least 3 pairs of pants that defy both gravity and modesty. You pull on something shiny, something bold, something that makes your reflection ask, really? No one warns you about the physical risks of rockstar fashion. You've suffered more wedgies from too tight trousers than from your entire school career. Zippers break at the worst possible moment, usually during an energetic guitar solo or an impromptu interview. Button-up shirts gape alarmingly in all the wrong places, especially when you're stretching for that high note. Your bandmates laugh, but you're pretty sure you've started a whole new genre of wardrobe malfunction. Let's talk about the scarves. There's a scarf for every mood. Dramatic scarf, mysterious scarf. I haven't done laundry in 2 weeks, so this is technically a shirt now scarf. You wrap one around your neck, 2 around your wrists, and occasionally one around your mic stand for good luck. If you lose count, that's fine. The important thing is to never ever perform with a bare neck. That's how rumours start. Glitter, meanwhile, is a force of nature. You put on a little before a show, just enough to catch the light, you tell yourself. By the time you leave the venue, you've created a trail that would make Hansel and Gretel jealous. It's in your shoes, your hair, your coffee. You wake up weeks later to find sparkles embedded in your phone and clinging to your bass guitar like barnacles. The rest of the band claims innocence, but you know the truth. No one escapes glitter. It's the herpes of the arts and crafts world. Then there's spandex, which doesn't just hug your curves, it files a legal claim to them. Your pants are so tight you can't sit down, but you look amazing standing up, and that's half the job. Every night is a battle with the laws of physics, your dignity, and the poor soul tasked with helping you out of your trousers when the zipper inevitably gives up. Spandex is both friend and foe, supporting you on stage and quietly reminding you to maybe skip that second helping of fries. Let's not forget accessories: feathered boas, mirrored sunglasses, jewellery heavy enough to be used as self-defence. You layer rings, bracelets and necklaces until you sound like a one-person percussion section. You try hats, bowler, top, floppy, beret, until you find one that doesn't fall off mid-encore or obscure your vision so badly you miss the microphone. Fashion emergencies are daily events. Someone rips a sleeve, someone else loses a shoe, and you once see a bandmate perform an entire set with a price tag hanging off his collar. But you own it. In rock, there's no such thing as overdressed, only undercommitted. The bolder you go, the more they remember. You're not just playing music, you're declaring war on beige. As you take the stage, spotlights bouncing off every reflective surface on your body, you realise the truth. Fashion in the 70s isn't about looking good. It's about being unforgettable, unstoppable, and just a little bit ridiculous. And honestly, you wouldn't have it any other way. Backstage is where chaos becomes art. There's always a crisis, a broken amp, a missing shoe, or the lead guitarist locked in the bathroom with a blender and a conspiracy theory. No one knows how the show actually starts on time. It's a miracle every night. You step behind the velvet curtain and it's like entering another universe, one where laws of physics, common sense, and personal hygiene are entirely optional. The air smells of anticipation, sweat, and the faint hint of hairspray strong enough to punch a hole in the ozone. Stagehands scurry past with cables, clipboards, and looks of mounting existential despair. Someone's frantically ironing a shirt on a speaker cabinet. Someone else is searching for a lost tambourine with a good jingle. Every square foot is a crossroads of activity. Voices rising, instructions shouted, jokes cracked, and always, always, the hum of nerves. Your dressing room is barely big enough to contain the band's egos, let alone all the velvet jackets and abandoned snack trays. There's a handwritten sign taped to the door, your name spelled wrong for the 12th night in a row. Inside, half the band is debating whether velvet and corduroy can be worn together, while the drummer is attempting to balance his entire dinner on a cymbal stand. Every surface is covered: scarves, empty water bottles, guitar picks, and a growing collection of socks whose rightful owners have long since forgotten them. Suddenly someone yells, "We're on in 10, the universal cue for panic. The lead singer can't find his voice spray. The bassist is missing entirely, rumoured to be asleep in a laundry cart or possibly out back negotiating with a stray cat. The roadie reports that the lighting tech has mistaken the fog machine for a kettle and is now making a cup of tea that could probably power the opening number. The manager storms through waving a clipboard and threatening to read the insurance waiver aloud, which would frighten anyone into action. You do your best to warm up, humming scales, stretching fingers, hoping the zipper on your pants will survive the encore. The hallway outside is a parade of personalities. Local radio hosts angling for an interview, groupies with homemade passes, a security guard who swears he saw Elvis in the parking lot, and the janitor reminding everyone that the mop bucket is not, in fact, a foot bath. Somewhere nearby, the guitarist is retuning for the 9th time, muttering about the government and the vibrational frequency of E minor. Meanwhile, the snacks meant to energise you before the show have vanished, replaced by a half-eaten celery stick, 3 brown bananas, and a mysterious casserole that appears to be evolving sentience. Someone spilled grape juice on the set list. Again. So you squint and guess at the order. Improvise is the unspoken motto of Backstage life. Just as nerves peak, a calm settles. A strange kind of focus forged by chaos and adrenaline. Someone passes you your guitar, another hands you a scarf. The drummer clicks his sticks together, and suddenly all the shouting, the searching, the questionable sandwich decisions, it all fades to white noise. You line up behind the curtain, heart pounding. The crowd's roar leaks through the walls, thumping in your chest. All the drama, all the wardrobe malfunctions, all the missing shoes and runaway roadies, it's background now. There's a shared grin, a wink, a deep breath. The curtain lifts. The stage lights blaze. And somehow, despite everything, despite the broken amp, the blender in the bathroom, the fact that you're wearing mismatched socks and your set list is written in grape jelly, you step out and make magic. The show goes on, the music plays, and for the next 2 hours it all looks effortless. But only you and the mop bucket know the truth. For every chart-topping love song, there's a real-life story of romance, regret, and 3-day relationships that end in epic fashion. Heartbreak is the house band, and everyone takes a solo. Love, on the road, is an improvisational sport. It starts with a glance across the green room, or a bashful smile traded in the wings. Maybe it's a poet in a paisley blouse, or a journalist with the world's largest tape recorder. Maybe it's a fan who sneaks backstage, delivers a bouquet of daisies and says, "I wrote you a letter every day for a year." In the moment it all feels cinematic, like the start of something that will fill a dozen verses and a bridge. The chorus, unfortunately, is often a bit out of tune. You fall hard and fast, no time for the slow burn when your entire schedule is booked in 3-hour increments. The first night is always electric. A stolen kiss by the tour bus, a promise scribbled on the back of a flyer, matching eyeliner and heartbeats. You try to explain that tomorrow, I'll be in Memphis, but tomorrow feels 1,000 years away when someone's holding your hand and quoting your own lyrics back to you. Your friends shake their heads and place bets on whether this one lasts until the encore. Dating in a rock band is a full-contact sport. There's the ex who still shows up at shows, the manager's assistant who keeps sending friendly reminders not to text at 3 in the morning, and the inevitable love triangle involving your bassist, a roadie, and a Swedish keyboard player named Sven. Feelings are amplified, jealousy cranked up to 11, and every fight is performed in the key of melodrama. You argue about set lists, song lyrics, and whether or not sharing a toothbrush counts as commitment. Long distance doesn't even begin to describe it. Your postcard collection is proof. Wish you were here scrawled from every dive bar and airport lounge on the continent. You call home at 2 a.m, your heart full and your phone battery empty, promising you'll write, you'll call, you'll remember their birthday this time. The line goes fuzzy, the bus rolls on, and another town blurs by. Inevitably, there are the heartbreaks, the ones that don't make it into the liner notes. Maybe it's the whirlwind romance that ended when someone forgot your name mid-chorus. Maybe it's the songwriter you thought would be forever, until they left you a note taped to the hotel minibar. It's not you, it's the band's creative direction. There's the one who inspired an entire album of heartbreak anthems, and the one you can't sing about at all. Not because you don't remember, but because it still hurts too much to find a rhyme for Des Moines. Even when you try to move on, Love is waiting for you in the oddest places. A rose tucked into your guitar case, a secret note left on the windshield of the bus, a mixtape slipped into your bag by someone who just gets it. Sometimes you listen to those mixtapes on a lonely highway, the sound of someone else's voice filling the silence between shows. Sometimes, just for a second, you think about quitting it all for a quiet life with someone who actually remembers to water their plants. But the road always calls you back. The music is a jealous lover, demanding all your attention, all your time, all your heart. You pour your pain and longing into the ballads, send them out into the world, and hope someone out there understands. If they don't, that's okay, because heartbreak is universal. Everyone gets their solo. In the end, you make peace with the fact that love on tour is as fleeting as a summer rainstorm, beautiful, wild, gone too soon, and always leaving a little mud on your favourite boots. And you wouldn't trade it, not for all the chart toppers in the world. The lights go up, the crowd is screaming. For 2 hours, you are invincible, a god in a sequined jumpsuit. You sweat out every regret, every bad decision, every last shred of common sense, and the adrenaline is better than any drug until the lights go down. It starts with a roar, a sound that's less a noise and more a living thing. You feel it in your bones, in the soles of your shoes, in the way your heart stutters as you peer through the curtains. The crowd is a sea of faces, all hope and hunger, hands in the air and voices louder than the PA system. Someone in the front row is already crying, someone else is waving a homemade sign that says "Play Freebird" in glitter. You catch your breath, grip your guitar, and for just a second, you're terrified. Then the first note hits, and fear dissolves into electricity. On stage, the world narrows to the moment. The lights are so hot your makeup starts melting before the first chorus, but you don't care. The thump of the drums is your new heartbeat. The microphone tastes faintly of last night's lipstick and regret. You can't see the edge of the stage, and you're not entirely sure if your fly is up, but it doesn't matter. For now, you're unstoppable. Spandex becomes a suit of armour, sequins a shield, and even the wardrobe malfunctions feel like acts of the gods. You lock eyes with your bandmates and everything else drops away. The music is all that exists. The guitarist grins, the drummer winks, the bassist looks surprised to be here at all. Every solo feels like a confession and a dare. Will you make the leap? Will you hit that high note? Will you survive the key change your manager warned you about? The crowd surges, chanting, singing, losing themselves in the noise and the sweat, and the shared moment of euphoria. The setlist is a blur. You play songs you wrote in motel rooms and gas stations, songs you barely remember recording, songs that only make sense when 1,000 people are screaming the words back at you. Every time you raise your hands, they do too. Every time you jump, they jump. It's a dance of trust and chaos, and for a little while, it feels like you're the conductor of a human orchestra. The highs are dizzying. You leap off monitors, twirl the mic cable, slide across the stage in moves you'll regret tomorrow morning. Someone throws a rose, someone else a suspiciously soggy teddy bear, and you catch both without missing a beat. In these moments, time stops. There's only the thunder of the crowd, the hammering in your chest, and the blissful certainty that this is why you endure tour buses, questionable sandwiches, and the ever-present aroma of glitter and hairspray. Of course, there are risks. Sometimes you get so high on the energy that you forget which verse comes next, or which city you're even in. You glance at your set list and realise someone spilled grape juice on it. Again. You play on, improvising lyrics, and the audience cheers like it's all part of the show. You're bulletproof, at least until you trip over a cable or realise you just dedicated a love song to the wrong person. Adrenaline is a generous drug, but it has a wicked sense of humour. Eventually, though, the last chord rings out. The crowd roars one last time. You stand, panting, bathed in light and sweat, and something dangerously close to happiness. The curtain falls, the lights fade, and suddenly the world is silent again. Your heart still pounds, but reality creeps back in with the chill air and the vague realization that you may have promised to marry someone in the balcony. You stagger backstage, exhausted and glowing, ears ringing with applause that lasts long after you're alone. Because nothing in the world, not even the wildest party or the strongest speedball, can match the high of standing in that spotlight and hearing the world scream your name. And if you're lucky, you get to do it all again tomorrow. Not every night is magic. Sometimes you forget the lyrics, sometimes you fall off the stage, and sometimes you realise your mic is dead and your fly is open. The show must go on, preferably with your dignity still attached. The truth is, every rock star has a highlight reel of onstage disasters. The kind of moments that haunt your dreams and occasionally resurface as viral clips at 3 a.m. Maybe you're halfway through a heartfelt ballad, the crowd is waving lighters, or whatever they could sneak past security, and you suddenly blank on the next line. You stand there, mouth open, eyes wide, praying for divine intervention, or at least a helpful stagehand with a cue card. Instead, you get the guitarist mouthing nonsense words, and the drummer gleefully filling the silence with a solo you never rehearsed. Technical issues are as reliable as sunrise. There's always that one amp with a vendetta against you. It starts the night strong and then, midway through your solo, explodes with the delicate grace of a popcorn kernel in a microwave. Your mic dies just as you're nailing the chorus. You're left pantomiming like a mime in spandex, desperately tapping the mic, nodding and grinning as if it's all part of the act. The crowd stares, puzzled. The front row takes it as avant-garde performance art. Your manager takes it as another reason to start drinking early. Wardrobe malfunctions become part of your stage persona. One night, your zipper is open for 3 songs. Another, your carefully chosen scarf gets caught in a cymbal, yanking you backward mid-verse. Spandex pants split with a noise like a gunshot. If you're lucky, the spotlight misses the incident. If not, well, you just invented a new dance move called the emergency shuffle. You learn to keep safety pins and double-sided tape in your gig bag, right next to the emergency granola bar and a list of excuses for every city on the tour. Then there are the unexpected hazards. Puddles of mystery liquid, cables snaking across the stage like booby traps, and monitor wedges that leap out just as you turn to gesture dramatically at the crowd. You trip, you stumble, you nearly faceplant into the drum kit. The audience gasps, someone laughs, and you spring back up, arms raised in triumph, as if you totally meant to stage dive into your own roadie. Because the show must go on, and apparently so must you, at whatever altitude fate decrees. Crowd mishaps are a special treat. Sometimes a well-meaning fan throws something on stage, a rose, a teddy bear, a suspiciously heavy shoe. You dodge projectiles with ninja reflexes. Other times, someone tries to clamber up for a hug, only to be intercepted by a bodyguard who could bench press the tour bus. There's always at least one overzealous fan in the front row trying to hand you a gift, which later turns out to be a taxidermy hamster, or a collection of their poetry written in lipstick on sandwich wrappers. There's the night you forget which city you're in and yell, "We love you, Cleveland," in Detroit. The boos are real, but so is the forgiveness. Sometimes you start the wrong song, realise you're playing in the wrong key, or simply run out of energy halfway through and have to finish with jazz hands and wishful thinking. But here's the secret. Nobody remembers the flawless shows. The disasters are what become legend. The time you fell into the drum kit, the night you serenaded Milwaukee with a song meant for Memphis, the night your pants betrayed you in front of 12,000 people. These are the stories fans tell for decades. These are the scars that prove you survived. So you bow, you laugh it off, and you promise yourself to triple-check the zipper next time. Because in rock and roll, the show always goes on. And sometimes, the biggest disasters make for the best encores. The concept of weekend becomes completely abstract. Days blur together in a haze of gigs, after-parties and unexplained injuries. You measure time not in hours, but in the number of empty bottles and new scars acquired. Somewhere around Thursday, or is it Monday, you stop checking the calendar. Your phone's clock reads AM when you're eating dinner, and PM when you're asking for breakfast. Sunrise is just a brighter part of the night, and sleeping is an optional activity, like flossing or reading the venue's safety instructions. The tour bus is your only constant, a gently swaying time capsule filled with socks, sticky floors, and people muttering about what city you're actually in. You wake up, if you can call it that, to the sound of a distant soundcheck or a drummer practicing polyrhythms on a cereal box. Your pillow is a bundled-up jacket. Your blanket smells faintly of last week's French fries. You look around, there's a set list taped to the ceiling, an empty pizza box under your knee, and your left shoe is inexplicably in someone else's bunk. The sun streams through the window, or maybe it's just the parking lot floodlights. Either way, it's time to move. The day's agenda is a blur. Pack up, load out, drive to the next venue. Sometimes you remember the show, how the crowd roared during the encore, or how you nearly knocked over the mic stand with your hip thrust. Other times it's all a foggy montage, a flash of sequins, a whiff of hairspray, a chorus shouted at maximum volume. The after-party is its own dimension, hotel ice machines, questionable snack trays, and philosophical debates about whether you actually played Stairway to Heaven, or just dreamed it. Meals appear and disappear with no logic. You eat a cheeseburger at 4 a.m. and a bowl of cereal at midnight. Someone hands you coffee in a cup with your own face on it. Water is the real rock star, and you chase it like an elusive tour bus Wi-Fi signal. You keep your sunglasses on at all hours, because it's easier than explaining why your left eye is still twitching from last night's tequila-fueled karaoke session. New bruises and injuries are a daily occurrence. You spot a fresh scratch on your elbow, a suspicious bump on your knee, and a sharp pain in your ribs from an overly enthusiastic stage dive. Or maybe just sleeping on a guitar case. Band-Aids become your fashion accessory. Your manager hands you a tube of arnica gel and a warning not to do anything you can't pronounce. Sometimes you run into old friends, or people who claim to be old friends. They hug you, swap war stories, and ask about that time you tried to crowd surf in a venue with ceiling fans. You nod along, smiling, grateful that someone remembers, because your own memory is as fuzzy as the recording of last night's show. Days end when they end. Maybe it's dawn. Maybe it's the middle of the afternoon. You stumble into your bunk fully dressed, makeup still on, half-eaten burrito in hand. The bus rocks you to sleep with its familiar diesel lullaby. You dream of sold-out arenas, lost luggage, and a universe where weekends are a thing you actually recognise. Eventually reality creeps back in. There's a new city, a new stage, and a fresh audience ready for the magic, or the disaster you're about to unleash. The only way you know it's Saturday is because someone's wearing their lucky socks, and the crew has set up a disco ball over the green room microwave. But you wouldn't trade this chaos for anything. Lost weekends are a rite of passage, proof that you survived, and even thrived, when time itself surrendered to the music. So here's to another day, another show, another night that might be a morning. In the end, who needs weekends when you've got rock and roll? Fame means knowing everyone and remembering none of their names. Wild parties with celebrities, infamous pranks involving live animals, and the mutual agreement to never speak of last night again. You step into a party and instantly recognise half the faces, actors, musicians, comedians, someone who claims to be big in Belgium. Someone slaps your back and tells you, "You were great last night." You smile and nod, hoping the context will arrive before the canapes do. In the corner, two famous drummers are arm wrestling over a leftover eclair while an aging film star tries to ride a unicycle. There's always a model clutching a chihuahua, and always, a magician doing card tricks for the roadies. These friendships are forged in the fires of chaos. No one introduces themselves with a real name, just stage names, nicknames, or the occasional call me whatever. I'm on my third comeback. Phone numbers are scribbled on napkins, autographed record sleeves, and once, memorably, a sleeping cat. You bond over shared weirdness, the adrenaline of the stage, the headaches of travel, and the eternal search for a cup of coffee that doesn't taste like carpet glue. The parties are legendary, both for their energy and their unpredictability. You find yourself at a poolside gathering at 3 a.m, debating philosophy with a pop star wearing roller skates and a boa. Someone has let a goat loose on the lawn, allegedly as a tribute to a famous concept album about farm animals. Your manager texts you, "Do not get arrested," which is code for, "Please try not to set anything on fire." You pose for blurry Polaroids with people you'll see on magazine covers next week, everyone grinning like they know a secret they'll forget by breakfast. Pranks, of course, are inevitable. Someone replaces the headliner's shampoo with whipped cream. And other times the drummer's alarm to play polka at full blast. At a particularly infamous party, you and a rising soul singer convince the venue staff to fill the hot tub with Jell-O. It's all fun and games until someone finds a harmonica at the bottom and claims it as the Jell-O solo of 1978. No one can explain why there's a live chicken in the dressing room, but everyone agrees it has better rhythm than the bassist. The apologies come the next day, usually before you've had your first coffee. You call a famous actor to say sorry for the cake fight. He laughs, reminds you of the time you accidentally broke his ukulele, and sends you a fruit basket shaped like a guitar. You text a country singer about the missing boots. She replies with a photo of your scarf on her cat. There are no grudges, just new stories, inside jokes, and a shared understanding that some nights are better left uninstagrammed. Beneath the surface there's real camaraderie. Fame can be lonely, but there's a strange comfort in being surrounded by people who get it, who understand the highs, the weirdness, and the unspoken rules. You can disappear into a crowd and still feel seen. You swap advice about tour diets, therapy, and which late-night diners will actually serve you after your photo goes viral for eating spaghetti with your hands. Nobody judges, at least not out loud. As the sun rises and the party winds down, you find yourself sitting on a curb with a comedian you just met, sharing a half-eaten donut and stories about hometowns and failed romances. Someone plays an acoustic guitar badly, and everyone sings along off-key and heartfelt. In that moment you realise these friendships aren't built on fame or fortune. They're built on survival, on laughter, and on the endless human need to connect, even if it's only for a night. By the next tour you might not remember their names, but you'll remember the goat, the Jell-O, and the comfort of being just another weirdo among friends who know how to keep a secret. And maybe, just maybe, you'll send them an apology fruit basket just in case. You're a global icon, but to your mum, you're still the kid who never calls. You try to phone home, but after 3 all-nighters and a speedball for breakfast, holding a conversation is like competing in the Olympics while underwater. You stare at the phone for a good 5 minutes, rehearsing lines. "Hi Mom, I'm great." "No, I haven't joined a cult." "Yes, I'm still eating vegetables, if you count ketchup." The hardest part isn't finding a quiet place to call. It's remembering what time zone your family is in. Is it 4 p.m, back home, or 4 a.m? You gamble, press the number, and pray you don't wake anyone up, or worse, wake everyone up. Your mother answers on the second ring, chipper as always. "Darling, it's been weeks." You hear your childhood home in the background, the TV playing a sitcom, your dad in the garage muttering about the lawnmower, the dog barking at a mailman who refuses to be intimidated. Suddenly, your jet-setting rock star life seems less real than the sight of your old bedroom with its peeling band posters and pile of never-returned library books. She asks questions that require actual thinking. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating well? Why did I see a photo of you with that nice country singer? Are you dating? You try to keep your answers short and positive, filtering out the smell of stale beer and whatever mysterious substance is currently stuck to your elbow. You say you're sleeping great, translation 3 hours a night if you're lucky, and eating plenty, translation, the hotel minibar has nuts. You avoid the dating question entirely, as the last thing you need is your mother calling your manager to ask about your love life. Again. The real test is sounding sober. You focus on enunciation, try not to slur your words, and attempt to ignore the bandmate giggling in the background as he impersonates your Aunt Linda. Your voice is hoarse from shouting over amplifiers all week. You sound like you've swallowed a cheese grater. You sure you're not coming down with something? Mum asks. You sound tired. You assure her you're healthy as a horse, even though the only thing you've eaten that wasn't deep fried this month was a wilted grape from a Backstage fruit tray. Occasionally your dad grabs the phone. He wants to know about the music business. He asks if you've met anyone famous, if you're making money, if you remember to lock the bus at night. You assure him you're being responsible, conveniently leaving out the part about last night's after party and the fact that you still don't know where your shoes are. He grunts, tells you to call more often, and hands the phone back to your mum, who immediately starts telling you about your cousin's clarinet recital. Meanwhile, the rest of the band has caught on. They shout greetings in the background, some genuine, some suspiciously high-pitched. Someone yells, "Hi, Mum!" even though you're pretty sure your mother still hasn't forgiven them for that one Christmas incident with the eggnog. There's a crash, a burst of laughter, and a muffled argument over who's eaten the last pack of peanut butter crackers. Your mother sighs, tells you to take care of yourself, and reminds you once again that no matter how famous you get, you'll always be the kid who once tried to microwave a Pop-Tart with the foil still on. You promise to call more often. You probably won't, but she loves you anyway. As you hang up, you feel both guilty and oddly grounded. The world of stage lights, sequins and chaos fades for a moment, replaced by the reassuring banality of home. You wonder if you'll ever really sound sober, or if it even matters. Because to your family, you're not a legend, you're just theirs, and for a few minutes, that's better than any sold-out arena. One wrong move and you're front page news. Paparazzi lurk everywhere, rumours multiply faster than your laundry pile, and every sneeze is a potential scandal. If you haven't been caught doing something outrageous, are you even famous? It starts innocently enough, a flashbulb as you leave a venue, a reporter with a notepad pretending to care about your creative process. You learn quickly, never trust a journalist holding a microphone in one hand and a pie chart labelled most likely to cause a scene in the other. Your first tabloid headline is almost flattering. Rock star dines at local diner, but it escalates fast. Suddenly, you're spotted with mystery companion, your drummer in a wig, accused of starting bizarre food fight, someone dropped a salad, or the classic secret wedding, you were just buying socks. Somewhere along the way, the cameras multiply. One photographer climbs a tree outside your hotel window. Another pops up at 5 a.m. as you leave the bus in your pyjamas, immortalising your bold, postmodern fashion sense. Translation: mismatched slippers and a shirt with yesterday's sandwich on it. You start to wonder if the pigeons in the park are wearing wiretaps. Every trip to the grocery store becomes a stealth mission. Dark sunglasses, hood up, ducking behind a pyramid of bananas like you're auditioning for a spy movie. The checkout lady smiles. Big night tonight? You nod, toss gum onto the counter, and try not to flinch when someone yells "smile" from the frozen foods aisle. Rumours, meanwhile, spread like wildfire. You once wore a purple jacket on stage. Now the tabloids claim you're launching a solo career as a grape. An old friend visits you backstage and suddenly you're caught in a love triangle. You trip on a microphone cable and it's rock star's secret battle with balance. If you spend 3 nights in a row at home, it's singer's mysterious disappearance. Is Rehab next? You begin to suspect that your actual superpower is giving strangers the ability to invent stories at the speed of sound. It isn't just the big things, romance, rehab, rivalries. It's every detail. A photo of you eating soup becomes a think piece about your high-sodium lifestyle. A blurry shot from a backstage nap is evidence of your ongoing exhaustion scandal. You wear sunglasses indoors and become the poster child for celebrity oddball syndrome. Some headlines are so far-fetched, even your mother calls to ask if you really did buy a pet alligator and take up extreme ironing. The worst part, you can't fight back. Correct one rumour and 3 more appear in its place. Your manager tells you, never read the comments. You try not to, but sometimes curiosity wins and you find yourself scrolling through a sea of conspiracy theories, fan fiction, and strangers passionately debating whether you brush your teeth counterclockwise. Over time you learn to treat it all as background noise. The real fans know better. Your friends tease you, "Hey, nice alligator," and your family saves the weirdest clippings for family reunions. You discover the secret to survival. Don't take it personally. Laugh at the madness, pose with the pigeons, and sign autographs for the photographer's grandmothers. Because in the end, if the tabloids aren't watching, you're probably doing something wrong, or worse, something boring. Fame is a circus, and the tabloids are just another set of clowns in the tent. You keep singing, keep living, keep laughing, and let the rumours swirl around you like confetti after the encore. After all, in the wild world of 1970s rock, the biggest scandal is not being remembered at all. Everybody's taking a break for exhaustion, which is code for rehab. You get a week in the countryside, 6 new self-help books, and the vague feeling that someone has stolen your pants. Recovery is hard when your roommate is the bassist from another band. It starts with a rest period announced to the press. Your manager stands solemnly at a microphone, swearing that you just need time to recharge after the last 40-city tour. Nobody says the word rehab. Instead, you're on retreat, focusing on self-care or exploring new creative avenues, preferably far from any venues with open bars. Your suitcase is packed for you. 3 track suits, a folder labelled therapeutic exercises, and a packet of herbal tea that smells like damp socks. Your driver wishes you luck. Your bandmates slap you on the back, and the label sends flowers that wilt before you even leave the driveway. The place itself is always a sprawling old mansion, painted cheerful colours, nestled somewhere that promises tranquility and a total lack of paparazzi. The walls are decorated with motivational posters and the faint echo of other people's existential crises. The lobby is a parade of sunglasses, bathrobes, and people with very strong opinions about chamomile tea. Your roommate is the bassist from a once famous band. He spends most of his days reciting conspiracy theories and sneaking snacks into group therapy. He's been here before. He knows the shortcuts, the good hiding spots, and how to get 2 extra pudding cups at lunch. You follow his lead because rehab is all about survival. The schedule is relentless. Meditation at dawn, group sharing at noon, art therapy at 3, and supervised phone calls after dinner. You make a papier-mâché swan in craft class that looks like it's seen the end of the world. In group sessions, everyone pretends not to recognise each other, even though you've all played the same festivals and once tried to buy cough syrup from the same pharmacist at 2 a.m. There's a code of silence. What's said in group stays in group, unless it's especially hilarious, in which case it becomes legendary. Meals are a lesson in humility. The kitchen serves nutritional therapy, which is code for steamed vegetables and ominously grey porridge. You dream of greenroom pizza, then feel guilty for not appreciating this new, healthy path to enlightenment. The staff are gentle but firm with the calm of people who've seen it all before. They have mastered the art of the supportive eyebrow raise and the withering look that says no, you cannot trade your meditation time for a nap. Therapy, of course, is the main event. You sit in a circle, holding a stress ball shaped like a dolphin, and talk about feelings. There are tears, laughter, and more than a few confessions about tour bus hygiene. You learn everyone's greatest fear, darkest regret, and secret recipe for instant noodles. Sometimes you catch yourself wondering if you're in recovery, or just a very intense summer camp for emotionally confused adults with gold records. Outside, the grounds are peaceful. You wander the garden paths, learning to identify birds and avoid the squirrel that keeps stealing everyone's granola bars. You write in a journal. You promise yourself you'll never touch a speedball again, then cross your fingers just in case. The days blur together, but you start to feel lighter, less like a rock star in exile, more like a human being who might actually deserve a second or seventh chance. Eventually your time is up. The press releases a new statement. You're reinvigorated and inspired. You leave with a bag of herbal tea, 6 half-finished self-help books, and the certainty that your pants are gone forever. Back on the road, the band teases you gently. The manager breathes a sigh of relief, and the fans welcome you back with open arms. Rehab might be the worst-kept secret in rock, but it's also a quiet badge of survival. Because sometimes, even legends need a break. Eventually, the magic fades. What started as a creative boost becomes a dark necessity, and you realise you're not chasing inspiration, you're running from withdrawal. Even the music can't drown out the anxiety anymore. At first, you could pretend it was all part of the lifestyle. The late-night bursts of energy, the feverish songwriting sessions that spilled into dawn, the feeling that you were living faster and brighter than anyone in the audience. The hotel bathroom became your private alchemist den, a place to mix your modern potions, a place where you could still convince yourself you had control. But night by night, the line between just for fun and can't survive without it began to blur, and the rituals grew darker. You start to notice the toll. Your hands shake, but you chalk it up to caffeine. Your voice strains, but it's just from the shows, right? You stop sleeping, first by choice and then by inability. Your mind racing, your body humming like an overwound guitar string. You spend more and more time alone, the world reduced to a series of locked doors, drawn curtains and whispered phone calls for more supplies. The tour bus, once loud and chaotic, becomes eerily quiet as your bandmates tiptoe around the subject, waiting for you to implode or vanish. The shows become harder. The applause no longer gives you that euphoric hit. It only echoes the emptiness. You forget lyrics, miss cues, break guitar strings, and occasionally burst into tears for reasons you'll never be able to explain. The speedball, once your secret shortcut to euphoria, becomes an anchor you drag from gig to gig. You promise yourself you'll quit, or at least slow down, but the promise lasts about as long as your last encore. Soon, the paranoia sets in. You start seeing threats in every shadow. Managers, roadies, even fans suddenly seem suspicious. You worry that everyone knows, that every cough or slip of the tongue is a sign you're being watched, judged, or replaced. You rehearse apologies you'll never say, draft letters to people you can't remember if you've already driven away. The mirror becomes your harshest critic, showing you a stranger with hollow eyes and a wardrobe built mostly out of missed calls and regrets. You try substitutes, herbal teas, meditation tapes, yoga poses that look more like accidental furniture assembly. Nothing quiets the need. Your body has grown used to the hurricane, and now there's no peace in the stillness, only the pounding headache, the crawling skin, the endless gnawing fear that you'll never write another song, never play another decent show, never be anything but that guy who lost it all. The crew, once conspirators in mischief, now turn away, carrying on without you. The phone rings less, the invitations dry up, and still, the music persists. Sometimes, in rare lucid hours, you pick up your guitar and try to write something honest. The chords don't come easily. The words are brittle, sharp, but you keep strumming, keep singing, because the habit of making noise is the only thing stronger than the habit of self-destruction. The applause becomes a distant memory, the crowd's a blurry dream. What's left is just you, a battered instrument, and the echo of all the promises you made to yourself back when the world felt infinite. If you're lucky, you reach a point where something breaks, not you, but the pattern. Maybe it's a friend showing up unannounced, a family member who calls just to say I miss you, or even a stranger's letter in the mail. Maybe it's simply waking up one morning, looking around at the wreckage and realizing you want out. The unravelling is brutal, but it's also a crossroads. The music you wrote in the shadows might be the soundtrack for someone else's climb out the dark. In the end, surviving is the bravest encore you'll ever play. Some bandmates don't make it. The industry is ruthless, and the speedball claims its share. The stories are whispered backstage, always with the same punchline. He just couldn't slow down. You remember the first time it happened, how unreal it felt, even though everyone saw it coming. One night you're sharing a laugh on the bus, trading stories about the worst catering in Ohio and the weirdest fan gifts. Taxidermy Squirrel still holds the record. The next, there's just an empty bunk and an awkward silence where his laughter used to live. The crew pretends not to notice, the promoter asks if you want to reschedule, and the rest of the band gathers in a hotel room, each person staring at a different patch of ugly carpet, waiting for someone else to say it out loud. There are always warning signs, but no one wants to be the first to break the spell. Maybe he missed soundcheck, showed up late for the bus, or started slurring his words in interviews. Maybe he was the life of the party one night, and a ghost at breakfast the next. You tell yourself it's just the lifestyle, just a phase, just a bit of fun gone too far. After all, aren't you all living on the edge? It's easier to blame exhaustion, the tour schedule, the pressure from the label, anything but the drugs, anything but the speedball. Denial becomes part of the routine. You joke about it backstage, swapping wild stories about who partied the hardest, who could drink the most, who once fell asleep inside a bass drum and missed 3 shows. The band is a family, but it's also a survival game, and sometimes you can't save everyone. It's easier to laugh, to shrug, to let it be someone else's problem, until the problem is staring you down in the green room mirror. News travels fast in the industry. Someone makes a call and soon the story is everywhere. Another gone too soon, another tragic loss for music. The press prints tributes, old tour photos, grainy images of smiling faces and youthful optimism, as if the story could end any other way. Fans hold up candles at the next show, and you sing the ballads with a lump in your throat, eyes searching the wings for a bandmate who will never step out again. You carry on, because that's what everyone does. The show must go on. The new guy takes over the missing part, learns the old licks, borrows the jacket that still smells like last summer's cologne. You try not to compare, try not to count the empty chairs at the after party, but the holes in the group are as real as the applause. Every set list is a reminder of what's missing. Every encore is one less person harmonising by your side. Privately, grief comes in waves, sometimes disguised as anger, sometimes as guilt, sometimes as the hollow ache of what if. You think of the friend who always brought coffee to soundcheck, who never remembered the lyrics but always nailed the chorus, who swore they could quit whenever they wanted. You remember the laughter, the fights, the endless, stupid hope that things would work out in the end. You wish you'd said something, done something, been a better bandmate, but the music never gave you time to look back. So you do what you've always done. You play on. You tell the stories, share the old jokes, sing the songs louder for the ones who can't. You keep the bus rolling, the amps humming, and the memory alive in every show, every city, every night spent waiting for a familiar knock on the dressing room door. Because in rock and roll, loss is as much a part of the mix as love and laughter. The tragedy never gets easier. The denial never fully fades. But you honour them the only way you know how, with one more song, one more show, and the stubborn hope that somewhere they're finally at peace, no longer chasing the next high, just the next chorus. You survive things that would kill a lesser mortal: overdoses, car crashes, flaming drum kits. Each time you wake up, you're amazed, confused, and a little less sure that you want to try your luck again. It starts as a badge of honour. Did you hear what happened to me last night? Every band has their war stories. The time you dove into a crowd and nearly disappeared for good, the night a pyrotechnic display went sideways, and the drummer finished the set with one eyebrow and half a snare. Survival isn't just about living through it. It's about coming back with a story wild enough to impress the roadies, and weird enough that no one asks for a repeat performance. Overdoses become cautionary tales, told in whispers on the bus, traded like currency at after-parties. You remember the first time it happened to you, the panic, the spinning room, the sudden parade of paramedics with expressions halfway between professional concern and again. You wake up in a hospital bed, plastic wristband digging into your skin, and the nurse calls you honey while making you promise, not for the first time, that you'll take better care of yourself. You nod, you smile, and the second she turns her back, you wonder where your shoes have gone and how you managed to lose both of them in a locked ambulance. Then there are the tour bus disasters. No one really sleeps on the bus, they just temporarily lose consciousness. You've woken up to flat tyres on the side of a mountain, to a sudden hailstorm in Tulsa, to the driver announcing he might have made a wrong turn, by about 3 states. Once the brakes failed and you coasted into a gas station on little more than fumes and the combined prayers of everyone on board. The guitarist said it was fate, the bassist said it was luck, and you said it was probably time to get off the bus and walk the rest of the way. And don't forget the stage mishaps, amplifiers that catch fire, lighting rigs that threaten to fall with every guitar solo, drum kits that explode with the enthusiasm of a toddler in a paint factory. You leap over wires, duck pyrotechnics, and finish songs with a microphone stand that's somehow both electrified and on wheels. It's part of the job, you tell yourself. You sign waivers you never read, play through power outages and laugh it off when your hair gets singed during the finale. Some close calls are more subtle. You wake up in strange hotel rooms, unsure how you got there. You narrowly dodge disaster by not eating that suspicious shrimp cocktail after a gig in Reno. Once you accidentally lock yourself in a venue bathroom for 2 hours, emerging just in time for the encore, to wild applause and the relief of everyone who thought you'd skip town. The universe, it seems, is not quite done with you. Each survival adds a new scar, a burned fingertip, a fractured toe, a story about that time in Des Moines that nobody fully believes. You laugh it off on the outside, but deep down, every close call chips away at your sense of immortality. You start carrying extra bandages, learn how to spot the difference between adventurous and life-threatening, and keep a list of emergency contacts longer than your set list. Eventually, you begin to wonder how many times you can cheat fate before it calls in your tab. Each morning you wake up, sometimes in your own bed, sometimes in a hospital, once in a laundry cart. You take a deep breath and thank your lucky stars, your road crew, and whatever guardian angel the universe has assigned to reckless musicians. You're a survivor. You've danced with disaster and lived to tell the tale. But with every brush with the edge, you learn to appreciate the quiet moments, the safe landings, and the rare night when nothing catches fire except, maybe, the encore. And that, for a rock star, is the sweetest miracle of all. Not everyone is lost. Some claw their way back from the edge, swapping heroin for herbal tea and finding comfort in yoga mats, therapy, and long walks far from the stage. Comebacks are quieter, but sweeter. It doesn't happen all at once. You don't just wake up one morning and decide you're done with chaos, no matter how many self-help books your manager mails to your hotel room. Recovery begins in small moments. The first morning you open your eyes and notice the sunrise, not just the remains of last night's mascara. The first time you walk into a green room and see a fruit tray, and your first thought is, I should eat a banana, not, where's the whiskey? You start to measure your days by progress, not parties. The industry doesn't quite know what to do with you at first. Clean and sober sounds like the setup for a punchline in a world that rewards excess. The tabloids lose interest. The wild fans move on. The phone rings less, and you find yourself in places you never expected. Yoga studios, health food stores, early morning farmers markets where nobody recognizes you except the cashier, who just wants to know if you have exact change. Therapy becomes your new green room. You trade late-night confessionals on the bus for appointments with someone who uses words like mindfulness and boundaries. At first, you joke about it, turn everything into a bit, because that's what you've always done. But slowly, the act falls away. You start telling the truth, even when it stings. You learn that your greatest hits aren't the stories you told on stage, they're the days you choose to show up, for yourself and for the people who never gave up on you. Yoga is a revelation, mostly because it's the first time you've paid attention to your own breathing since 1978. Downward dog isn't easy with old tour injuries, but it feels good to move in a way that doesn't require sequined pants or pyrotechnics. The quiet is unnerving at first. Your mind races, your body aches, but you stick with it. Eventually the noise inside fades to a manageable hum, and you start to recognize yourself in the silence. You reconnect with old friends, with family, with the bandmate you haven't called in years because you were too embarrassed to say you needed help. You have awkward coffee dates, walks in the park that end with both of you laughing so hard you forget why you stopped talking in the first place. You make amends where you can and accept the apologies you'll never get. The music is still there, waiting for you. It's different now, less desperate, more honest. You write songs in the morning light, not the midnight gloom. The first time you step back on stage, you're terrified. No chemical courage, no mask, just you, your guitar, and the knowledge that every note is a promise to keep going. The crowd is smaller, but the applause feels warmer. You play for yourself, and somehow that's enough. Comebacks are built on the quiet victories, saying no to old temptations, saying yes to new beginnings. You learn to cook. You learn to sleep. You discover the small joys, warm socks, a text from your sister, a cup of tea that doesn't need a chaser. The world doesn't always notice when you get better, but you do. So you move forward day by day. You walk the line between who you were and who you're becoming. You share your story when you can. For those still searching for their own comeback, you hold hope in both hands, knowing it's fragile and hard won. And if you ever doubt, just look how far you've come. The comeback is the sweetest encore, one that plays long after the house lights come up. The fans move on, the stages are dark, and you're left with memories, tinnitus, and an impressive collection of hospital bracelets. Life after fame is slower, sometimes lonely, sometimes peaceful, sometimes just weird. You wake up and realize you're not late for anything. No tour bus idling outside, no frantic manager texting in all caps, no hotel wake-up calls with creative pronunciations of your name. Your days, once measured by curtain times and set lists, are suddenly your own. At first, the quiet feels suspicious, like someone's about to leap from behind the couch and shout, "Encore!" But it's just you, the neighbour's dog, and the ticking of a clock you never had time to notice. You discover a new kind of luxury, silence. No sound checks, no backstage drama, no amp feedback humming through your bones. You learn the rhythms of your house, the way the floor creaks near the fridge, the soft thunk of junk mail landing on the mat. Sometimes you miss the chaos, the adrenaline, the constant hum of the road. Other times you sit with a cup of tea and wonder how you survived so long without hearing yourself think. Solitude is a double-edged sword. Some days it feels like a well-earned vacation. You take long walks, rediscover the local park, and wave awkwardly at neighbours who still squint, trying to remember if you're that guy from the TV. You read books with more words than chords, binge old sitcoms, and finally sort through a lifetime's worth of fan mail, photos, and glitter-encrusted memorabilia. The attic becomes a time capsule. Ticket stubs, worn set lists, a single platform shoe with no known mate. But some evenings, loneliness slips in. You find yourself humming to the empty room, tuning a guitar just for the company. You call old bandmates, leaving voicemails that trail off into nostalgia. You scroll through decades-old photos, equal parts proud and baffled by your fashion choices. Was that really velvet and leather? The phone rings less. The world gets quieter, and you realise that for years your self-worth was measured in decibels. There are odd second acts. Maybe you take up gardening and discover your green thumb is more chartreuse. Maybe you open a coffee shop where the regulars have no idea they're being served lattes by someone who once played to a stadium of screaming fans. Occasionally you teach music at the community centre, and a shy kid asks if you've ever been in a band and you just smile. Sometimes you get recognised at the grocery store, where your greatest fan is a cashier who claims her mum had your poster in college. You try new things. You write a memoir, or at least start one, begin painting, attempt yoga, although your body protests after years of spandex and stage dives. There's comfort in the routine, feeding the cat, watering the plants, watching the seasons change. You find friends outside the industry, people who know you for your jokes, your kindness, or your legendary apple pie, not your place on the charts. And sometimes the music returns, not as a roar, but a gentle pull. You write a song in your kitchen just for yourself. You play a small gig at a local bar, the applause softer but somehow sweeter. You remember why you loved it all in the first place, not the fame, not the lights, but the magic of making something that might touch someone somewhere. Life after the spotlight is not a fade to black. It's a chance to find yourself in the hush after the last note rings out, to savour the simple joys you missed along the way, to learn that peace is just another kind of encore. And in the silence, you finally hear the music you carried with you all along. Even as the years roll on, the legends of 1970s rock live forever. Stories get wilder, songs never fade, and somewhere, someone is still trying to perfect the perfect speedball. You've survived, scarred, wiser, and maybe finally ready for a good night's sleep. Decades have passed, but the world keeps spinning tales about those wild years. The records you made, scratched, warped, and played to death, now fetch small fortunes in dusty record shops and on the walls of hipster coffee houses. Kids who weren't born until the millennium try to replicate your hair, your swagger, your signature move with the mic stand. Documentaries reenact your worst fashion decisions with loving detail. Biopics get the colour of your boots wrong but nail the eyeliner. At every reunion, the stories grow taller, the hotel rooms get messier, the crowds louder, the road trips longer and more improbable. You hear yourself described as a pioneer, a rebel, an icon. No one mentions the hangovers, the allergic reactions to polyester, or the morning after you mistook a houseplant for a stage monitor and serenaded it for 20 minutes straight. Instead, you're the stuff of myth. The one who lit a drum kit on fire, outpartied the Stones, and lived to tell the tale. There's a strange magic in the way the world remembers the 70s. It's a decade that refuses to fade quietly. Bell-bottoms make comebacks every 5 years. Vintage concert tees are a hot commodity at thrift stores. Every playlist has at least one of your songs, sandwiched between new bands that all secretly wish they'd lived through the original mayhem. There's comfort in knowing that somewhere, a college kid is learning your biggest riff and dreaming of sequins, smoke machines, and sold-out stadiums. Yet the myths are only half the truth. You know the real story, the midnight phone calls, the missed flights, the gigs played to empty bars and the encores that made you believe in magic. You remember friends lost along the way, inside jokes no one else will ever understand, and the simple joy of a perfect harmony ringing out across a stadium at sunset. The world sees the legend. You remember the reality. Both are precious. Both are real. As you grow older, the pace slows. No more tours that blur into infinity. No more early morning interviews where you invent increasingly wild stories just to see what the tabloids will print. You trade in late-night chaos for quiet afternoons, concerts for backyard barbecues, and chaos for the occasional crossword puzzle. Every now and then, you're invited to give a speech, sign autographs, or play a few old favourites at a charity gig. The fans are greyer now, the applause a little softer, but the love remains, and the legend goes on, whether you want it to or not. New books, new rumours, new kids pressing their noses against the glass of the past. Sometimes you catch a glimpse of your own younger self on an old album cover. Reckless, wide-eyed, immortal. It's humbling and a little hilarious to realise that you're still here, still part of the world's soundtrack, even if it's only as the answer to a pub trivia question or the punchline of an uncle's story. So you pour yourself a cup of tea, look back on the beautiful wreckage, and marvel that you survived it all. You toast absent friends and hard-won wisdom. And as you tuck in for the night, you find peace in knowing that legends never really die. They just learn to sleep better. You've earned your rest. The music will take it from here. There's something about a rock star and a hotel room that's like moth to flame, or more accurately, like TV to swimming pool. You walk in with every intention of behaving, but by midnight the mini fridge is on the balcony, the lampshade is a hat, and you're debating whether the mattress would make a better sled or a raft. Housekeeping doesn't even flinch anymore. They just leave extra towels and a bill shaped like your latest platinum record. At first, you're polite. You sign your name at the front desk with a flourish. Try to make eye contact with a bellhop and say you'll take good care of the room. You mean it too. But the minute the door closes, the spell breaks. Your inner child, fueled by 3 decades of late-night anarchy and enough caffeine to power a small city, takes the wheel. The first casualty is usually the complimentary notepad, covered in lyrics, doodles, and the band's latest attempt at a logo that doesn't look like an alien language. The minibar is an irresistible challenge, an overpriced treasure chest filled with tiny bottles, snacks, and mysterious beverages that are probably illegal in several countries. You and the band conduct a taste test, which is a fancy way of saying you mix everything together and dare each other to drink it. The results are predictably disastrous. Someone invents a vodka-cola pickle, someone else declares the peanuts are haunted, and you wonder if you'll ever get the strange blue liquid out of your hair. Inevitably, the party escalates. The room becomes a blank canvas for bad decisions and questionable engineering. The chairs form an obstacle course. The TV remote disappears into another dimension. Someone sets up an impromptu bowling alley using shampoo bottles and the soap dish. Your guitarist attempts to tune the room phone for better acoustics and ends up calling the front desk to order a kazoo. There's a heated debate about whether the luggage rack can support the weight of the bassist. Spoiler, it cannot. Fashion also takes a turn for the dramatic. Before you know it, you're wearing the hotel robe, someone else is in just one curtain, and the drummer has made a hat out of a pile of tiny shampoo bottles and a sock. You start to wonder if this is what Picasso felt like in his blue period, surrounded by chaos, half-dressed, and considering whether the room's ironing board could double as a surfboard in the bathtub. The crowning achievement is the mattress. It's a rite of passage. Does it bounce? Does it float? And how far can you drag it down the hall before someone stops you? You try it out, of course. Sometimes you get creative and build a mattress fort, complete with no managers, allowed signs, and secret passages. Other times, the mattress ends up propped against the door for security, which only results in everyone being locked out at 3 a.m. By sunrise, the room looks like it's hosted a hurricane, a circus, and a garage sale, all at once. Housekeeping, wise from years of rockstar shenanigans, gives you a knowing nod, replenishes the towels, and hands you a bill long enough to wrap around the minibar twice. You pay, smile sheepishly, and sign a headshot to our favourite hotel staff. Sorry about the curtains. Hotel room demolition isn't about destruction. It's performance art, rebellion, and group therapy rolled into one. You leave the room with new stories, an impressive tally of lost deposit fees, and the quiet certainty that you'll never be welcome back at the Holiday Express on Route 66. And as the bus rolls on to the next town, you make a solemn vow to behave next time, a vow that lasts exactly as long as it takes to find out if the next hotel has a swimming pool. Every band needs a manager, and every manager is 2 skipped meals away from a nervous breakdown. Their main job isn't booking gigs, it's finding you before the police do, negotiating with angry venue owners, and trying to convince the press that you're resting and not currently climbing a statue in Times Square. Their stress levels are legendary, their patience superhuman, and their ability to disappear at the exact moment you need bail money is downright magical. The first sign of a manager's meltdown is subtle. The twitch in their left eyebrow, the way they clutch their clipboard like it's a flotation device, and the nervous muttering about insurance policies and damage waivers. You know you've gone too far when they start drinking coffee straight from the pot and texting the band in all caps. "Where are you?" is less a question and more a spiritual cry for help. You see, managers are less like business people and more like zookeepers who accidentally unlock the cages. Their day starts before sunrise, with 12 missed calls, 4 venue emergencies, and at least 1 international incident. They can talk a customs agent into ignoring the suitcase full of suspicious wires, charm a hotel manager into waiving the no pets policy, and still find time to run interference between your lead guitarist and the buffet table. No, you cannot take the chocolate fountain to your room. During a typical day, your manager juggles a to-do list that includes booking flights, fixing broken amps, fending off fans who insist they're actually part of the crew, and translating the band's half-baked ideas into emails that don't get flagged as security threats. They mediate arguments about set lists, wardrobe choices, and the ethics of eating an entire wheel of cheese before a show. When the band's energy dips, they become motivational speakers. When tempers flare, they turn into United Nations peacekeepers, armed with granola bars and the world's most patient sigh. But when things go sideways, as they always do, the manager earns their title. There's a fire alarm at the venue, the drummer has vanished with a moped, and someone has painted the band's name across 3 lanes of traffic. As chaos blossoms, the manager is everywhere and nowhere, putting out metaphorical and occasionally literal fires, shaking hands, apologising in 5 languages, and making promises that may or may not involve reparations and a lifetime supply of concert tickets. The press naturally loves a meltdown. Paparazzi hound you at every corner, hungry for a quote, a photo, a scandal. It's the manager's job to smile, to spin, to turn band found in fountain into innovative hydration strategy. They field calls from worried parents, angry fans, and that one cousin who now manages a tribute act in Cleveland. Their office is a rolling suitcase, a tangle of charging cords, and a never-ending calendar alert reminding them to buy more aspirin. Of course, managers have their own coping mechanisms. Some meditate backstage, others stress-bake banana bread for the crew. The truly seasoned ones develop a 6th sense for disaster, appearing at the precise moment you're about to sign a contract with a promoter named Vinny Vegas or attempt to crowd surf off a balcony. When things really hit the fan, they vanish completely, only to reappear later with the correct paperwork, a new passport, and a plausible alibi. At the end of the night, you'll find your manager sitting alone, head in hands, staring at a spreadsheet full of expenses that include emergency shoe replacement and llama rental. You offer a sheepish apology and promise you'll be good tomorrow. They just nod, pour another cup of coffee and get back to work. Because in the circus of rock and roll, the real unsung heroes aren't always on stage, they're backstage, holding everything together with patience, caffeine, and the secret hope that someday, somehow, you'll make it through a tour without climbing anything illegal. It's 2 p.m, you haven't slept, and you're expected to care deeply about the exact placement of a microphone. Welcome to Soundcheck, where every instrument buzzes, every amp hums, and every band member develops a sudden and passionate opinion about acoustics. By the end, the only thing truly in tune is your desire for a nap, and maybe, just maybe, one more cup of coffee strong enough to dissolve a spoon. Soundcheck is a sacred ritual, somewhere between a technical rehearsal and a group therapy session, except with more cables and fewer tissues. You stumble on stage, sunglasses welded to your face, trying not to trip over last night's set list or the drummer's ever-growing mountain of mysterious cases. The stage smells like old popcorn, spilled beer, and the faint hope that someone remembered to tune the bass. The first task, plug everything in and hope for the best. There's always a symphony of pops, crackles and feedback squeals that make you question the meaning of life. The sound tech, a wizard in black with the patience of a saint, asks you to just play a little, which you do, with all the enthusiasm of a sloth on a Sunday. The monitors squawk, the amps whine, and the lead guitarist launches into a 10-minute solo just to check the mids. You glance at your coffee cup, now empty, and briefly wonder what would happen if you just curled up behind the kick drum and took a nap. Band politics reach their peak during soundcheck. Everyone suddenly has very strong feelings about the exact decibel level of the hi-hat or the mysterious honk in the monitors. The bassist claims he can feel the sub-bass in his kneecaps. The keyboardist wants more sparkle, and the singer, who hasn't spoken all day, suddenly demands less reverb but more echo, but not too much. The sound engineer adjusts faders, twirls knobs, and tries not to throw themselves into the nearest amp stack. There's always at least one existential crisis. Maybe it's yours, maybe it's the roadie's, maybe it's the amp that suddenly refuses to work unless you whisper compliments to it. You contemplate your life choices as the tech repeats, "Can I get some guitar in the monitors? A little more? Okay. Less? No. More." Your bandmate starts quoting Nietzsche, and for a minute you're not sure if this is still a rock show or the world's weirdest philosophy class. Breaks are short and precious. You escape backstage to find a vending machine that only accepts foreign coins, or a pot of coffee that's achieved a density normally reserved for neutron stars. Someone eats a banana, someone else meditates, and the rest of the crew takes bets on which cable will catch fire first. You check your phone, realise you've missed 3 calls from your manager, and decide that's a problem for future you. After what feels like a lifetime, the sound check ends. The sound tech looks 10 years older, the drummer has started a drum circle with the local crew, and the keyboardist is testing synth patches that sound suspiciously like a spaceship taking off. You strum a final chord, listen for the sacred words, "That's it, we're good," and immediately forget every note you just played. As you stumble off stage, one thing is clear. Nothing in the world will ever sound exactly right, but you'll fake it anyway. The audience will never know how many existential crises went into getting the snare just so, or how many times the phrase "is this thing on?" almost ended in tears. But that's the magic of rock and roll. You fight the feedback, you wrestle the hum, you bond over coffee and confusion, and somehow by showtime it all comes together. And if it doesn't, well, there's always tomorrow's soundcheck. You know you've made it when your fans start sending gifts you have to Google before touching. Forget flowers or love letters, your haul includes a stuffed iguana, homemade jams of questionable origin, and a pair of underpants with your own lyrics stitched into the waistband. You thank everyone politely, but deep down you're not sure whether to open the next package or call animal control. The daily gift unwrapping becomes a sort of reverse lottery. Roadies wheel in baskets and boxes with a ceremonial seriousness usually reserved for crown jewels. Each offering is a surprise, a hand-carved bust of your face, somewhat melted by the sun, a snow globe containing a suspiciously realistic miniature tour bus, or a book of poems dedicated to your hair. Once, a fan shipped you a loaf of bread shaped like your guitar, still warm, oddly comforting, and immediately devoured by the crew. Then there are the taxidermy tributes. At some point in rock history, it became normal for admirers to present you with animals preserved in eternally startled poses. Squirrels with tiny sunglasses, a raccoon holding a sign that says "You rock," and, memorably, a possum dressed in what can only be described as a tiny disco suit. You line them up in the dressing room and hope none of them are haunted. Bandmates place bets on which one will move first. Security checks them for hidden microphones, just in case Rolling Stone is getting creative. Food gifts are the most dangerous. You once received a dozen mason jars labelled Grandma's Special Jam, contents ranging from neon green to a colour best described as prehistoric. There are cookies iced with your face, fudge moulded into musical notes, and a cake so structurally unsound it arrives as a pile of frosting with a heartfelt note. Hope it still tastes like love. Your drummer, braver than most, volunteers to sample everything. His iron stomach is legendary, his digestive system a marvel of modern science. Sometimes you catch him reading the ingredient list with a flashlight, and the kind of focus you'd expect from a surgeon or bomb technician. Edibles aren't always meant for eating. One fan, inspired by your song Velvet Skyline, mailed in a batch of Skyline brownies that turned out to be made with questionable botanicals and more than a dash of glitter. The effects were memorable. The band spent the afternoon debating the meaning of life, colour, and whether or not the tour bus was actually a spaceship. No one remembers much about the show that night, except that the encore involved interpretive dance and someone serenading a bottle of ketchup. Wearables are in a league of their own. You've received hand-knit scarves in psychedelic colours, t-shirts 3 sizes too small with inspirational slogans like "I love your elbow solo," and the aforementioned underpants, delivered in a box with a note that reads, "For emergency use only." There are hats shaped like your signature hairstyle, gloves adorned with tiny sequined lightning bolts, and socks featuring your face, your band's name, and, just for fun, a map to the venue scrawled on the heel. Then come the truly unclassifiable: locks of hair, hopefully from a pet, magic crystals blessed under a full moon, an 8-track tape labelled "Do Not Play Before Midnight," and a life-size cardboard cutout of yourself, positioned strategically so it startles you every time you walk into the dressing room. Sometimes the best gifts are just plain weird: a hand-painted potato, a sculpture made of chewing gum, a rubber chicken signed "Love Grandma." You keep what you can, donate what you must, and never, ever eat anything that wiggles. Every gift is a reminder. Fame attracts the lovable and the loony in equal measure. You cherish the creativity, marvel at the effort, and accept that in the world of rock and roll, thank you can cover everything from baked goods to disco possums. And as you drift off on the bus, you wonder, what's waiting for you at the next stop? Another stuffed animal, another culinary adventure, or maybe, just maybe, a handwritten note that simply says, "Thanks for the music." Those, somehow, are always your favourite. So tonight, as you settle into your clean bed with its crisp sheets and predictable plumbing, maybe spare a sleepy thought for the rock stars of the 1970s. Those poor souls who survived on a diet of adrenaline, coffee, and the kind of pharmaceuticals that could tranquilize a small horse. They lived in a world where sleep was optional, glitter was permanent, and a balanced breakfast meant not accidentally snorting your toast. Think of the hotel rooms transformed into disaster zones, the tour buses that should have come with a biohazard warning, and the endless parade of well-meaning fans who thought nothing of mailing you a dead bat or a jar of suspiciously chunky jam. Remember the managers who aged a decade every month, the groupies who could recite your entire discography from memory, and the tabloid photographers lurking in every potted plant. But above all, remember the resilience it took just to keep playing night after night, song after song, with nothing to rely on but each other, a few chords, and a spectacularly questionable decision-making process. It wasn't just the drugs or the headlines that made these people legendary. It was their ridiculous hope that one more song, one more show, one more sunrise would fix everything. Sometimes it did. Sometimes it didn't. But they kept going, fueled by a stubbornness that makes your own Monday mornings look like a spa retreat. So as you close your eyes tonight, grateful for your quiet room and the absence of a flaming drum kit, maybe say a little thank you for all the chaos you've managed to avoid. Because history, whether it's medieval peasants fighting frostbite or rock stars fighting the speedball, is proof that people are tough, hopeful, and just a little bit absurd. Sleep well, dream easy, and may your only speedball tonight be a pillow tossed gently across the bed. Good night, legends.